from the AirTech Heating Studios, a Born to Win media production. Welcome to the resurrection of Say It Like You See It.
It's Super Bowl weekend. Well, actually, it's not. That's a week away. But we do have one final game in the NFL left to play, and we are stoked for this episode of Say It Like You See It. My name is Trace, the Moustakis, live from the AirTech Heating Studios here in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, the heart of Packer country. Joined, as always, every single week by my partner in crime, Mighty Q, the Quinn Redmond himself. Quinn, how you doing today?
Hey, it's Friday. I'm hyped up. I had a great push day this morning. Got to the gym slightly earlier than normal. I actually pulled up at the gym at like 6:15 rather than 6:30. So it was a good start to the day. I'm rocking and rolling. Let's get after it.
That is literally right in the middle of my actual job shift. So I was not able to hit the gym that early. However, I was able to take a quick little lunch break and then go get about an hour's workout in so that I didn't skip out and be a slacker on a Friday.
Hey, that's all you need. As long as you go, that's the key.
That's right. All right, so like we were saying, we've got one final game left in the NFL, and we are all about it. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles representing the NFC and the Chiefs of Kansas City representing the AFC. A battle between Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and really the Andy Reid Bowl, his former team, the Philadelphia Eagles, and now his current team, the Chiefs. Andy Reid, this really speaks to kind of what he's done. But let's go over the game first before we get into a little bit more about Coach Reid and a little more deep dive into the analysis. Quinn, we've got Super Bowl weekend coming up here, not this weekend, but next weekend. What say you? What does it look like?
Well, I do like how you mentioned Andy Reid in there, and that is kind of a big thing. It's Andy Reid against his old team. It's something where you don't know if he has a chip on his shoulder about, how he was let go and if it's now something that he's really thinking about. And at the same time, I don't think that they want to be able to give the Eagles any ammunition. I know Travis Kelce had come out and talking about the Rocky statue, like leave it alone, don't mess with it, especially don't put his number on there. Is Patrick Mahomes going to be healthy? He was on Fox Sports 1. He was on with Nick Wright, and they had a conversation with him, and he was kind of, pretty definitely more laid back and not trying to give them any fire. So really, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup. You have an absolutely built team in Philadelphia from top down. It's Pro Bowlers everywhere, just an incredibly stacked roster. You have a very young Chiefs team with 6 rookies that are starters now, and you got Patrick Mahomes. So it's an interesting game with a star-studded potential GOAT in the making of Patrick Mahomes with a great coach in Andy Reid against his former team that is now Jalen Hurts and an incredibly stacked Pro Bowl roster and new head coach. But with the stacked roster, it's something, but it's definitely a good game, and we'll definitely see how it plays out.
Well, this is very much giving the impression to me of, do you remember back in like the early mid 2000s, we're talking like 2014 to 2017, how it was LeBron James against the amazing Golden State Warriors team. Of course, it was led by Steph Curry, in this case, Jalen Hurts, but the team surrounding Golden State was just absolutely loaded. And then you had LeBron, who was the greatest player on earth. And then you had another player, Kyrie, Travis Kelce. So there's a lot of complementary pieces and a lot of weird similarities that I see to those. So who takes home the gold? Is it the greatest player on earth, Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback we've ever seen to throw a football? Or is it going to be the best team in the league? And I think you and I would both agree the better team in total is the Philadelphia Eagles. Looking at it like both sides of the roster, defensively, offensively, special teams, it's not even close. The Eagles are by far and away the better team. They got more Pro Bowlers. They've got a better defensive line. They've got a better offensive line. They've got a better secondary. The only thing working for the Chiefs is Mahomes. So one thing that I did notice, and I was doing a little bit of research this morning, I didn't know this, and it's probably going to play a big effect in this game. Jalen Hurts is the number 1 quarterback in the NFL this season against press coverage. And Kansas City is the team that uses press coverage the most in the NFL, 82% of their snaps. So when they send a house, when they're really saying, hey, we're just going to attack your best players, Jalen Hurts thrives in those moments, and that's because of his legs. So I'm looking at this like this. They're going to play a lot of man on man and force Jalen Hurts to be a quarterback. If he can prevail, this MVP is as good as his.
Yeah, I like how you went on the deep dive of that stat and trying to find that. I'm going to give you something a little bit more random. 18 of the last 21 Super Bowl winners have worn white. The Chiefs are wearing white.
Oh God, that is beyond random.
Hey, if you want to draw conclusions, you got to pick straws, and sometimes the randomest of straws lies in the fact that 18 of the last 21 winners have worn white. You don't know what the optical illusion of that is. Sometimes knowing that because if it's truly dubbed as the away team being white, if you feel away, you feel like you're coming into the game, you have somewhat of a chip on your shoulder. Because, if we'll look at it this way, the Chiefs and their young talent, you had 3 rookie corners and a rookie safety that played in the AFC Championship game. What they've been saying is this Eagles roster is stacked. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, a great offensive line, great defense, great defensive line. All that everyone's kind of really talking about is, yes, it's then the quarterback matchup. It's Jalen Hurts against Patrick Mahomes and who's going to prevail. It's Andy Reid Chiefs against his old former team. And it's these weird storylines that are coming out, but it's truly based on the fact of, I think the Chiefs players are going to come into this game with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, rather than kind of coming in as, I think the Eagles, knowing that they're a good roster, knowing that it's surrounded with a bunch of good players, I don't think that it's going to be something that comes into the effect of the Eagles don't have the chip on their shoulder. Yes, people, doubted them. People said whatever, but at the end of the day, they're the 1 seed. They came into this. It ran through them. They dominated in 2 games. People are going to be talking about them as, they had the easiest schedule in the league. They had the easiest route to the playoffs. But at the end of the day, they had to go out and win the games. And with the fashion that they won those games in the convincingest of fashions, I think for this, they either have a large shot of coming out a little bit lackluster in terms of, yes, they're going to be prepared. It's the biggest game. You don't need any extra motivation for this game. But that little bit of motivation that could be in there, just a slight bit for the Chiefs. They talked about the Bengals like this is, hey, you know what? The Bengals have beat them. The Bengals are, might be the better team. It's the better receiving core. Joe Burrow has just the same likes of being better than Patrick Mahomes. So I don't think anyone's talking about Jalen being better than Patrick Mahomes.
No.
But I think the fact of them talking about a complete roster, I think maybe gives, it's you don't need anything to get up for this game. Patrick Mahomes was talking about it. You don't need any special things to get yourself psyched up for the biggest game. It's the last game, the only game. They're ready to go. So I had to give that slight edge. I like the fact that the Chiefs are wearing white. It's an irrelevant stat. I love irrelevant stats that have nothing to do with the actual game. At this point, I might go and look and see which sideline ends up with more winners, if it's the left side versus the right side, because it's all random. And at this point, you can bet on everything. So who cares? Why not find the most irrelevant things and make them relevant?
Well, I'm going to go back and bring it back to football. I don't care, what the statistic looks like for the team that wins the coin toss in the Super Bowl. It's irrelevant to me.
Just tell me what color that Gatorade is, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, teams that drink yellow Gatorade are the ones that usually come away with the victory.
Yeah, it's like they win at a 47.5% clip.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to bring this back to football. I think the game plan right now for the Chiefs defensively is you have to scheme for that run, right? You have to be able to stop the run, kind of put a spy out there, move him out to the side and just kind of roam around while Jalen Hurts scrambles outside of the pocket. And to take away that, designed quarterback run, put 2 guys out on the edge. When you see a tight bunch formation with a shotgun, you're probably thinking there's going to be some sort of zone read. There's going to be some sort of, RPO that's involved. You have to make sure that you're jamming those lines and making sure that you've got guys that can cover the ground laterally. And then simultaneously, when they spread five wide, and they're obviously going for a pass, blitz the hell out of him. he's not healthy, right? And inside the pocket, we've seen he's not able to manipulate the pocket kind of like Russell Wilson has yet. So that's one of the things that I think the Chiefs can exploit, especially with their great, their pass rush is fantastic. Chris Jones was unbelievable last week. The other guy, what's the other guy's name that it's escaping me? He's also phenomenal. Frank Clark. Frank Clark's the other. Yes, Frank Clark. Whoop.
Yes, the fact that people, to a degree, I think are still mad at Frank Clark and they're mad at D Ford still from Patrick Mahomes' first year in the AFC Championship game when he lined up offside. So in terms of the defensive linemen and what type of situation that they're going to have, they can have a very big impact on this game like they did last week with Joe Burrow. Those 5 sacks were huge in the game, especially that last sack at the end to kind of close it up. Like that was huge from them. I think, like you're talking about with defense, I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out because the fact that I know him and he was a grade behind me and we are on a first name basis. My boy Nick Bolton. Nick led the league in tackles this year.
Wow.
It's going to come down to Nick. If Nick can have a fantastic game and make sure that Jalen isn't out scrambling and he's not running all over and he can be in a spy type situation because he does some cover stuff, but he at the same time is playing a linebacker. So he is in on the runs. He is coming in and filling the hole, coming downhill hard. But at the same time, if he can have a game where he prevents Jalen from being able to scramble and be in that spy like you were talking about, and Chris Jones is able to put pressure, the Chiefs will be able to win this game. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to them. Patrick Mahomes, he's not. Patrick Mahomes isn't a type of guy to like, oh, he's going to automatically go out and give us 500. Like, yes, he has a very high ceiling, but it's more the fact that Patrick Mahomes' floor is higher than most people's ceiling. And I think that's the genuine difference in this game, which is why it's going to come down to the Chiefs defense. I think Nick has to have a great game. I think Chris Jones has to have a great game. I think Frank Clark has to have a great game. And those 3 guys on that side of the ball can genuinely get Patrick Mahomes his second ring.
Well, yeah. And look, we know that the best way to beat Mahomes is to keep him off the field, right? That's really the only way to beat Mahomes is make sure he has the ball as little as possible, because whenever he's got the ball, he's got a chance to make amazing things happen. But if I'm the Eagles defense, you've done one thing really, really well the entire season, and that's put pressure on the quarterback. Another interesting statistic that you might like to know, since 1963, when stats started being recorded, and that means individual sacks and team sacks, the Philadelphia Eagles this season tied for 3rd most in NFL history for an entire season. 93 sacks. That is insanity. Think about that first. I mean, like, there's only 17 games. You're getting to the quarterback that much. Now, again, they played the Bears once, and I'm pretty sure there were like 25 sacks in that game on the Eagles side. But at the same time, I'm looking at it like this. Mahomes is still not 100%. Don't get it twisted. He might not be nearly as bad as he was last week or when the injury took place, but there's no way he's 100%, not in 3 weeks on a high ankle sprain. So the Eagles are looking at it like, well, we've got Mahomes who at 85, 90% can still torch us. So what's the only other way that we can beat him other than keeping the ball out of his hand? Knock him down, make sure he does not get back up. Or if he does get back up, make sure he's hobbling on his way back up. If you can limit Mahomes' mobility, I mean, whether that be in the pocket or outside of the pocket, you've got a really, really legitimate shot, especially now that Kelsey's hurt with the back injury. You're probably not going to see Kadarius Toney come back into this game. You're basically, like you said, depending on a lot of young Chiefs players to come in and rise to the occasion. I mean, what are we looking at? The number 3 option right now is Sky Moore. So even Juju's a question mark in this game. So he's going to be looking a lot for Kelsey, but outside of that, you've got Valdez Scantling, Isaiah Pacheco, and Sky Moore as your other offensive weapons. It does not bode well for the Chiefs. But then again, like you said, as long as you got Patty Mahomes on the opposite side of the football, you got a shot.
Exactly. Patrick Mahomes has a very, very strong chance that if He goes on. He's 3-0 in his games that he's played after a high ankle sprain, and he's looked very, very good in all three of those games, like I'd said the last time. And he was 2-0 that last run when he had a high ankle sprain. So I trust that he can win a second game, and I think Patrick Mahomes will be the first since 1999 to win a league MVP and a Super Bowl MVP in the exact same year. The last time it was done was Kurt Warner in 1999. So I think Patrick Mahomes is going to do it this year. So it's been 24 years in the making, and it's time for that record to be broken.
Well, so before we move on to our next topic, there is going to be a topic today about the GOAT, as which he speaks right now, is where it stands after retirement. Tom Brady is going to be one of our next topics that we're talking about. But I do have a question for you, and this kind of just came to mind as we were discussing Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts wins, right? Say he wins the Super Bowl. Can we officially say that he's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson?
Yes. Because I already knew where you were going with that. Yes, he's better than Lamar Jackson because Lamar Jackson hasn't found a way to win. And yes, Lamar is dealing with the more talented quarterbacks on the side of the AFC. But at the end of the day, the Ravens have had a real decent team to definitely give him the opportunity to win a handful of games. And he just couldn't do it because they had beat the Chiefs once in the regular season. And the fact that they lost to the Chargers when he was on his rookie year, when he won 7 straight games after coming in and then lost that first round, finally got a win and then lost. So I think for him, the fact that he hasn't won enough in the postseason, like winning a Super Bowl is going to put Jalen it's going to put some distance between him and a lot of quarterbacks. You can then look at how far down Kyler Murray is going to continue to fall. Like you can then go and pick and choose a lot of quarterbacks that are good but not great, and they're all going to fall.
Let me extend you an olive branch then. Post Super Bowl, Jalen wins it. Where do you put him in the top 10? Do you put him in the top 10?
He definitely gets into the top 10. Patty's 1, Burrow's 2. And really after those two, it definitely starts getting kind of more mixed. I think you're going to see next year, it's going to be Patty and Joe Burrow again, 1 and 2. And then it's going to be another random mixture. People are talking about how, Russell Wilson is this terrible quarterback now, but I think they really don't understand. Sean Payton is coming into the building, and Russell Wilson had a passer rating at averaged about 105 in Seattle and never was below 100. And so suddenly in 1 year, he goes from never having a bad passer rating to suddenly being just terrible quarterback, can't win. So the mix from 3 to 10 definitely changes, but it's going to be some type of mixture of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. You can throw in maybe Deshaun Watson if we see flashes of early Deshaun Watson. I think I'm just saying we don't know. I mean, the fact that he played a few games, and so that may have been enough to get the rust off. He'll have a full off season, full time to get actual work with receivers. So we don't know what he's going to look like coming back. Then you kind of look at it where if Russ actually figures some stuff out, he can get himself back into the top 10 conversation. We don't really know what Dak Prescott is going to look like without Kellen Moore. I think that is actually going to be a very big impact. And I think the Cowboys as a roster are going to get worse. So he's definitely going to drop off. But at the end of the day, because Jalen wins that Super Bowl, Josh Allen doesn't have one. Joe Burrow made it, but lost. Now we're looking at Will Herbert, make it to an AFC championship game, let alone make it to Super Bowl, let alone win one. Tua hasn't, won a game in the postseason. So when you start looking at the guys that are in the league now, the minute you win one, you get better than all the people that haven't won one. I mean, there's 31 teams that don't win every year. So if you're the one that does,
if Jalen wins it, I'm putting him somewhere between 5 and 8. That's probably, I haven't decided yet because there's so much more that goes into it. You have to look at all the individual statistics. You have to look at the players around him, the pieces around him. How good was his defense? What was the talent like that he played? I mean, they played the easiest schedule of
Right.
the entire, so that definitely plays a factor. But if he wins, he's definitely somewhere between 5 and 9. All right. Moving on, and we could talk about Sean Payton all day. I've actually got some final thoughts on that at the end of this episode. The GOAT, as of which is right now, Tom Brady retired. Tearful Instagram post, got choked up in the middle of it, finally announced his retirement, says it's for good. So no surprise. I'm coming back. I'm going to call it retirement. And then 3 weeks later, I'm going to shimmy shake back on into the league. Like, hello. This is for good. So I'm going to start with you, Mighty Q. Just thoughts on not only the retirement, but Tom Brady himself. What does his legacy mean?
I mean, he played for 23 years. Tom Brady was in the league when you and I first started watching football. Tom Brady's always been around, but we've seen Tom Brady as a winner. Tom Brady was in the conversation every single year. I mean, he and Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning and these just random collection of about 6 quarterbacks were the legacy of what the brand of the NFL stood for. And Brady was the forefront of that. He was the guy who was constantly in the playoffs because him and Bill just had things worked out. The Patriots had the AFC East on lock. You knew that they were going to win because the other 3 teams in that division were completely unorganized, because it's kind of like what Nick Saban initially did at Alabama. Like, he was winning at a rate that he was forcing so much turmoil with inside his own conference, because everyone's like, okay, how do we just beat them? And they can't figure it out. So they keep going through this turnover. So there was a couple good Jets teams. I mean, Mark Sanchez made it to, the playoffs multiple times, and the Bills were competent twice with Tyrod Taylor in that same stretch. Miami would catch him off guard every once in a while late season in Miami. So there's this notion that his early days in New England were a Hall of Fame career. Then you can look at the middle of his career, and like those numbers collectively give him another Hall of Fame career, and his tail end just, with like the last couple years in New England and then what he did in Tampa Bay, that also makes another Hall of Fame career. So getting the chance to see all of, almost all of his career, and just getting the chance to fully take in, okay, this guy went from a nobody, and nobody's relative, but like completely counted out, a guy that was originally drafted by the Expos and he decided to play football instead, is a late pick 199 in the draft, ends up, coming in and getting a chance to play based on an injury. And then that's it. Like, from there forward, the greatest, like just a constant winner. Absolutely prepared, fully invested in the game, is the perfect blueprint for anyone who wants to be good at anything. Do what Tom Brady did. Look at it, say, I'm going to be the best, and just completely absorb everything. Make it everything about your life. Football was his life. He constantly watched film. He saw every single defense. He knew exactly what other teams were going to do. He had a perfect scheme. And he always talked about 45. So the fact that him saying now, like, oh, I'm retiring, he always talked about 45. He's 45. He's done. This was it. 23 years, 7 for 10 with Super Bowls. 70%. He's got 7 rings. He's got more than Jordan. Like, I think out of anything, that means something. I think having 7 rings instead of 6, having one in 2 different locations. So, hey, I won without Bill, just to kind of make sure, like, hey, like, yes, he's an important piece, but let's all remember, I now won without him. So that makes his original 6 a lot more credible. And there's really nothing bad to say ever about Tom Brady. He was, yes, emotional sometimes on the sidelines, but the reason that he gets emotional and passionate about stuff is because no one prepares like he does. So when people make stupid mistakes that were basically mistakes off of not being prepared and not ready, that's where you saw him get upset. And I think People need to understand that. And, there are people that have other meltdowns and dramas that people talk about. And it's like the reason that Tom Brady can do it is because Tom Brady invests his life into football. And that's the reason he's a winner. He's a great, great guy that we saw on the field and off the field. Hope the best for him. Hope he's able to take some time and really relax, and, all the best in whatever he does in his next endeavor. Hey, we'll see it from here. But nothing but an illustrious career that was 23 years, chock full of a bunch of highs and lows. But at the end of the day, I think we're all in a pretty good agreement that he is the GOAT.
Yeah. So a lot of comparisons are always drawn to Tom and Jordan, right? Because, 6 and 7 and the ultimate competitor, the fire to win. And it's an okay comparison. It's not the best comparison, though. You know who I think the best comparison is?
Who?
Floyd Mayweather. And I'll tell you why. Floyd Mayweather has never, ever, or at least in a lot of people's eyes, been the most talented boxer of all time. Like the ability, I think the most talented boxer that you've ever seen in your entire life was probably Mike Tyson. Just the ability to fight. But Floyd understood one thing better than anybody. If I prepare harder, better, more in depth, and at a will to crush you, understanding how you can lose to me, then I will always be successful. And Floyd Mayweather had the greatest boxing career of all time. He's never lost. So Tom Brady is a lot like that. No one would ever say Tom is the most talented quarterback that's ever lived, because he's not. He doesn't have the best arm. He never was in the most shape. He could never really run. But what did Tom do better than anything? He understood how to beat you by studying, by learning, by watching film. What do defenses do? What is this guy's weakness? What's this guy's tendency on this play and that play? He was a film junkie. And I mean junkie in the most obsessive, addicted way. Like, it was almost, if he couldn't get the prep that he deserved, he'd go crazy. There's stories about it all the time. I mean, even his own dad said, you're going to have to drag that kid off the field. There's no way he comes without fighting. I mean, the guy was just this elaborate planner, preparation all the time. Same with Floyd. He just knew, if I can beat you on points, if I can strategically beat you where your weakness is, I'm going to beat you every single time. I don't need to knock you out. And a lot of Tom's games, he never had better, he was never better pre-snap than Peyton Manning. He never had a rocket arm like Vic or Favre. He wasn't tough physically like Big Ben was. So where did Tom Brady's strengths lie? He always came in clutch. If you had the ball with 2 minutes left in the game, if Tom had the football, it was a 2-minute drill, they're down by 3 or tied, you knew Tom's going to win this game. He had the ultimate clutch gene. And that's where I think another comparison to Jordan can be made. Both guys, at the end of the game, you knew who had the ball in their hand and you knew who was delivering. And that's why Tom will go down, in my opinion, maybe not as the greatest to ever do it, but he'll absolutely, undisputedly have the greatest NFL career that's ever been had. And that's just the way it is. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is and the best football talent I've ever seen, the best one to ever throw a football. And when my kids ask, who's the best quarterback you've ever seen play, I'll say Patty. But if they said, who had the best NFL career? Tommy.
I think that's one that we'll just have to wait to see. Because in terms of, if you do compare it to the MJ LeBron debate, which is something that gets heated up, I think the big reason of why that one, especially now, why I still give it to MJ, especially now what LeBron's doing in his load management. MJ never did that. And I think that's the difference with football, is Tom went out there and Tom was able to give it his all. He, really only had the one injury. He never really had that many problems. I mean, yes, they had the different scandals that went on in New England, but really for the most part, Tom was pretty skate free. I mean, yeah, the deflated balls issue a couple years ago against the Colts, but I mean, what problems did you really have with Tom? It was, like you said, he was addicted to film. He was in there watching as much as he can get his hands on. And he's preparing, he's studying, and that's why he and Bill worked so well together. It was inevitable. Like they were going to win because the two of them together with their masterminds, and it's only time will tell to see honestly how long Andy Reid coaches. If Andy Reid coaches for another 10 years and him and Patty have another 10 years together from after this year, they have 10 years. I don't know, a 15-year Patrick Mahomes career against Tom's 23-year career. I think that'll be one that really needs to be looked at, because then it'll match being the fact that Patty played 20 with the same coach the same way that Tom played 20 with the same coach.
Well, here's what I'll say. Because I don't think anyone's going to play as long as Brady did. Even Patty, I don't think there's no way.
No, I think with Patty's style, Patty will probably give us like 5 to 7 more years, honestly. I think 5 to 7 more years of looking like he's looking now, and then after that, either I think Patty goes out on the ultimate high and literally wins and is just like, all right, I'm done. Kind of like we saw MJ do. Like literally just like, all right, like I can still win, but I'm gone. Like, bye guys.
I'll give you this. If Patty can go 5 in 15, I'll give it to him. I'll say he had a better career.
So I'm going to do some quick math here and follow me along, because I'm going to try to come to a conclusion. So if he wins this year, it's 2 and 5 in
Correct.
total years, 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. It's 2 and 3 chances. So he's 2 for 3, but 2 in 5 years or 5 seasons. If he gives us another 5, let's say he only plays another 5 years. If he wins 2 more in the next 5 and has 4 in 10, and let's say he goes 2 for 3. Let's just say he does the exact same thing in the next 5 years. Let's say another 5 years, he goes to 3 more Super Bowls, he wins 2, and so his total ends up being 4 and 2, but he's 4 for 6 in 10 years. 60% made it to the Super Bowl. He made it to the Super Bowl 60% of the time, with a 40% overall winning the Super Bowl. I think that is the only thing he has to do to get. He can play half the time that Brady does, win 4, and it would be it. I think if he makes it to 4 in less than 10 years, he gets it.
But I really like that 5 number. I mean, I understand. I'll give you, with your scenario, he's automatically locked himself in as the second greatest quarterback that's ever lived.
See, because I think at this point, if he wins 4 in 10, that's a bigger deal, because Tom Brady won 7 in 23.
Well, think about this. If Patty wins this year, it's 2 and 5, right? And he's gone 3 times. Peyton only won 2. Total.
which is why 4 is huge.
Yeah.
Like 4 is huge.
Now Peyton,
no one really wins that much.
Peyton did go 4 times. Peyton went 4. He's 2 and 2. He lost to the Saints and he lost to the Seahawks. But if Patty wins this one in 2 and 5, I mean that is like, it's almost unheard of. Like, I don't think anyone's ever done it. Like, well, Tom did it, but because Tom have 3 in his first 4.
Well, yes, and his in 01 wasn't really him. It was a great defense.
Okay, so 2 and 4 basically.
03 they won,
and then 04 they beat the Panthers.
In 04 they won, and
then
they almost went perfect in 07, 08, or 8, 9.
And they lost to the Giants. They
lost to the Giants.
Catch. Yes.
Yep. Because he went 10 years without winning one. So he had a 10-year stretch that he didn't win one. If Patty's able to win 4 in 10 years, that's the only number he has to get to.
I'd give it to you.
4 in 10.
Because Montana, for the longest time, was considered the GOAT before Brady, and he only won 4. So I'd give it to you.
Which is why I said 4. If he can, make it to, hey, Montana won 4 and we all give him, because no one else has all the other intangibles that Mahomes has. Mahomes is first in every category, basically, except, hey, how many Super Bowl rings do you have? That's the only category that you can't say, well, he's got great arm strength. It's like, well, you got to give it to Patty. Oh, he's mobile. Oh, Patty's pretty good at that.
So what do you think
extending
then,
plays.
Final question before we get on to our final topic. What do you think his number is? We know what our numbers are. We know what we just told him he had to do. What do you think Patty's number is?
I think for him, it's going to determine how long he wants to play. I don't know if Patty wants to play for 20 years like Tom. It would be interesting to me, because at some point you have to kind of look at it and go, okay, he already made a bunch of money. They gave him a baseball contract that was filled with a bunch of money early over a decent stretch of time. So he'll get another pretty sizable contract. So he's not short in money. So he doesn't have to go seek money.
Well, he's also got all those State Farm ads.
State Farm. He's now in with
Subway.
the Royals. He has the MLS team. Like he then took that and went so like the money's not an issue for him. So I don't think he's going to cling and try to play longer than he has to. Like Aaron Rodgers to some degree was like, never paid. Hey, give me my money. Like, I want my big payday. So he finally got it. Versus Patty kind of already has that checked off. Well, now it's just about how many do you want to win? And it's like, I don't really think for him it turns into that, because from the way it sounds like, the way I hear him talk and the way that he does in some interviews and whatnot, like, I don't think it's really about chasing Brady. Like, I don't think he's trying to be like, oh, I want to win 7. Now, he might. I mean, he says he wants to be the best, but think about everybody in the sports world in the way that, I mean, we're talking about it right now. He's won 1 and has a chance to win his 2nd, but he's made it to his 3rd Super Bowl. And we're already talking about, is he better than Brady? He made it to 5 AFC championships as a number 1 seed in his first 5 years starting. No one does that.
Yeah,
he's already done stuff that people haven't done. So the minute he kind of just adds, a couple more rings to the collection, it's going to be over. We're going to be like, he wants to be the greatest ever. If he wins this one and one more, and every talking head turns into, well, Patty, he's won 3. He won 3 and 4. Like three rings and 4 tries. And, let's say if he goes back to back, or if he doesn't win next year, the year after, but like he makes it to another AFC championship, it's like, if he goes, to the AFC championship 8 times in 10 years and he wins 3 Super Bowls, how can we not, like, with all of his other intangibles and things that he's already done, like, we'll have a conversation based on, yeah, he already is the greatest. He just didn't win more than Brady because he didn't want to play that long. Like, I think that's truly his only decision is, how long do you want to play football? He's got 2 kids. So they're young right now. And he says that he spends a lot of time playing golf. So when he's in the season, he's focused up with football, and he spends time with family when he's not doing football things. In the off season, he does golf and football off season. It's going to be, how long do you want to do the football part of your life? Does it make it another 5 years until his daughter starts playing sports? Maybe maybe that's what. So that's why I think that the 10 total years is good for him, because he's played 5 as a starter. If he plays another 5, that, allows his kids to at least be young, but they're formed enough that they're, first, second grade. So at that point, it's like, okay, do you leave football and focus on that? Because at that point, he has enough.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, we're out of time on this subject. So let's get into our final subject, something that you and I kind of breached earlier on in the week. And it's actually a perfect bleed from this last segment. So you and I were discussing what the most important thing at the end of the day for an NFL quarterback is. Is it the winning, or is it the statistics? Now, you have your side of the argument. Mine's not so black and white, but it definitely differs from you. I'll start with you. Winning or individual statistics, or statistics in general? What say you? What side do you fall?
As a quarterback, your job is to win football games. The reason we look at Tom Brady and we give him the argument for being the GOAT, you said it. Tom didn't have all the intangibles. He never had the strongest arm. He never threw for the most yards, never threw for the most touchdowns, never threw for XYZ things, was never out there for a passing show. It wasn't an exhibition. Tom Brady was going to do what he had to do to win the football game. And that's what matters, because he now has 7 rings because he focused his entire career on winning. As a quarterback, your job is to win the game. Justin Fields, I don't care how many yards you rush for if it doesn't lead to the Bears winning football games. You won 3 games this year. You lost 8 straight before you got hurt. You lost 7 straight to end the season last year. That's not signs of a good quarterback. Is Dak Prescott a great quarterback? Dak Prescott wins barely over 50% of his games, and he doesn't win in the playoffs. Is Lamar Jackson a great quarterback? Well, we say he's got great statistics, but he doesn't win any of the big games. Is Justin Herbert going to turn into a great quarterback? I don't know. He plays for the Chargers. Is he going to continue to do Charger things and get roped into the fact that they blew a 27-0 lead in typical Charger fashion, always find a way to blow games? So if it's talking about, hey, which quarterbacks are always the greatest, we talk about the ones that win proficiently. Peyton Manning was a winner. Like we say Eli gets a Hall of Fame conversation because he won 2 Super Bowls. His stats are disgusting outside of those 2 years. He's a 50% all-time record. And yet people go, oh, he's a definite Hall of Famer because he won the big game twice. At the end of the day, it comes at winning.
Well, okay. So you're looking at it way, way, way too as cut and dry. This is exactly what it has to be. It has to be about winning, and then everything else is secondary. That's not necessarily true. And here's why I'm gonna counteract your argument against Eli. Who would you consider to be a better quarterback, Dan Marino or Eli Manning?
Dan Marino was definitely a better quarterback, but you can't tell me that
That's all I need to hear.
But tell me, what was Dan Marino's career winning percentage? I guarantee you it wasn't 50%.
But my point is, Eli's won 2 Super Bowls. He
But
got
Eli,
it done. He won.
correct, because Eli won twice. And that's why people look at Eli as a good quarterback. Statistically, Eli was a terrible quarterback.
If statistics didn't matter, the only statistic that we would ever look at is what is a quarterback's win and loss percentage. That would be it. We would never have how many yards did this guy throw for?
I don't know.
How many
Any person
rush for?
Tell me how many of the top 10 greatest quarterbacks have a winning percentage that's anywhere close to 50%. I guarantee you none of them do.
But I'm not arguing against Eli Manning being in the Hall of Fame.
I'm not talking about Eli Manning. I'm talking about, think about the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Tom Brady won almost all of the games he played in. He has probably a 75% winning percentage. How many games did Dan Marino win? Dan Marino went undefeated one year, didn't he? Like Dan Marino was a winner Dan Marino was a winner. Patrick Mahomes, a winner. Josh Allen, to his early credit right now, is still a winner. He wins a large majority of his games. Joe Burrow is a large majority winner. He wins in the clutch time. Michael Jordan was a winner. Like, when it comes to being great, it's not about the stats. LeBron is also great because he's a winner. But what do people give him a knock for? The fact that he lost in the biggest moments, and he lost.
And then I could give you the same argument. Russell Westbrook is going to be a certified first ballot Hall of Famer. Never won a championship, is not a winner, but he is statistically he's one of the single greatest NBA players we've ever seen. And he's going to get into the Hall of Fame because of that. And no one's going to deny him of his spot in the Hall of Fame, first ballot.
Correct. And every single person and every single person with Russell Westbrook is always going to look at it, and they're always going to remember that Thunder team that didn't even make the playoffs the year after KD left, and he had the triple-double and everyone got super amped up about the fact that he averaged a triple-double, and everyone was so happy about it. And he's pretty much averaged a triple-double the next 2 or 3 years, and then it became irrelevant because he wasn't winning. That's why nobody cared. Like, congratulations, you're putting stats up, but you're not winning games. That's a quarterback. Receivers are all about stats. Receivers have nothing to do with winning the game. Running backs, it's all about stats. It's all about how good your numbers look. But a quarterback, it's about who wins the football game because you control it. You touch the ball in every snap. It comes down to how well and how proficient you move the offense down the field, how well you prepared for the game, how well you schemed and got everything organized. If you make a mistake late and you cost the team and you lose that game, people look down on you for that. That's Dak's big thing right now.
Let's look at two quarterbacks that played for the same team. Who would you rather have as your quarterback, Trent Dilfer or Lamar Jackson?
I would rather have Lamar Jackson, both because of his intangibles, but Lamar Jackson in the regular season doesn't lose very often. Look at Lamar's winning percentage.
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. He won.
Correct. But you also look at Lamar's winning percentage. Lamar is not a losing quarterback. Yes,
Lamar's going to get his contract not because he wins, but because of how well he performs on the field.
Correct, but because of how he performs on the field still leads to them winning games. Justin Fields has both terrible stats and loses games, but everyone's so happy about his rushing yards. His rushing yards were he came just shy of breaking Lamar's all-time record.
I don't think you can compare. I don't think you can compare Justin
Fields
in this head. You can't.
Yet, wait, because of the fact that Lamar Jackson broke the all-time record and won an MVP.
You can't compare Justin Fields in that same space. One, because Lamar Jackson, when he won his MVP, had far better talent around him in every single aspect of the game. Better than the Bears. The Bears had the second worst roster.
Was his receiving core really that poor?
Hollywood Brown, he's a really good receiver. Mark Andrews is a really good tight end. There's two guys right there that I would much rather have than Cole Kmet and Chase Claypool.
Correct. But the one thing that everyone needs to also understand, all of the players that are in the NFL are in the NFL for a reason. People talk about them as being scrubs. That is the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of athletes and players. There's a reason that they make it to the NFL. They went through a process in high school to make it onto the varsity team. They then got scrubbed down in an infinite process where roughly 3% of those players go on to play college ball. And the highest and best players then go to the big D1 programs where they're then scouted and skimmed through again. And the guys who can't play, don't play, and aren't even on college rosters, never see the field, let alone make it to the next level. Then you've got the guys who are then skimmed through and then managed through. And yes, the NFL, still half of it is undrafted, but that's because those guys were the ones that were under the radar the entire time, but never stopped playing the game. They were the guys that were still making rosters, and they just never really fully came into their talent. Guys in the NFL are all good. This receiver's better than this receiver. It's all bullshit. They're all NFL talent players and wide receivers.
That's not true at all, because
you can look at a guy who's on a roster and is terrible, and he goes to a different team and is then great.
I would much rather have Devontae Adams on my team than Cole Beasley.
Okay, you're comparing two completely different guys.
Well, they're both NFL players. They're both NFL receivers. They both made that league.
You're right, but Cole Beasley is a slot player, and slot receivers have a lot of different intangibles. And at the end of the day, you know what? Cole Beasley has played on two different NFL teams, and he's made multiple rosters. He's been in the league for a long time. He's a solid wide receiver. He has good route running. He normally catches any ball that's thrown in his general direction, and he makes a lot of quarterbacks a lot better because he gives them an easy check down. There's a reason he played for the Cowboys for so long.
I would much rather have Justin Jefferson than a guy like Michael Gallup. I mean, so they both
okay. You just compared a 1 to a 3.
But my point remains.
At
You're
best,
basically
Gallup
telling me.
at best
What you're
Gallup is
basically
a
telling
2
me
on
is
bad
if you
team.
make it to the NFL at a certain position, it doesn't matter at that point because you're already one of the elite of the elites. But there are elites of the elites.
I'm telling you that yes, there's elite of the elites, but you're comparing Justin Jefferson, a person who Randy Moss level of type of wide receiver. He is the one elite of elite. There's about 3 to 5 receivers in the NFL that outside of that 5th receiver, once you get to the 6th guy, 6 to 20 are all damn near interchangeable. That's the difference with the NFL.
My point, what I'm trying to get to you is that at the end of the day, winning is important, yes. And it's what players strive for. But winning isn't just what's going to get you into the conversation of one of the greatest to ever do it. You have to have the numbers to back it up. There's a reason no one's touching Jerry Rice right now. It's not because Jerry Rice won 3 Super Bowls or 4 Super Bowls.
Jerry Rice is a wide receiver. It's a different position.
But then I could argue this. I could say that I would much rather have a guy like Justin Herbert than I would have Steve Young. I think Justin Herbert is a better quarterback than Steve Young was, but he played on amazing teams.
We'll have to see. We will have to see the career that Justin has going forward. But what you're trying to convince me of is a quarterback is more important for him to go out and put up stats. Why do people talk about Aaron Rodgers as being the greatest?
Because he puts up the best stats.
He had great stats and great statistics. Okay. Do people talk about Matt Stafford, even though Matt Stafford has great statistics? Matt Stafford statistically has great statistics, but isn't really talked about. Now he won a Super Bowl. Now the fact that he won a Super Bowl, people recognize his entire career. Did people talk about Matt Stafford when he was in Detroit? Did people talk about Matt Stafford being an argument for a top 5 quarterback all the time? No, they did not.
Yes, they did, because they here was the argument. It was Matt Stafford's great. The Lions just suck.
Who made all of those plays with those level of people? You mean to tell me that Matt Stafford played with absolutely nobody, and yet, yes, he understand he had Calvin Johnson. He had Calvin Johnson, but Calvin Johnson was there and gone, and he still put up a bunch of numbers afterwards.
And that's my point. Can you name another Pro Bowl player that was on the Lions? Exactly. That's my point.
So Matt Stafford put up a ton of yards and a ton of stats with a bunch of, we'll use a term, not good, basically garbage, bottom tier players. So
it was never Matt Stafford. Everyone was saying Matt Stafford is not the issue. They're saying Matt Stafford is great. That's why they kept him for so long.
Correct.
It's because he put up amazing statistics. If it was just about winning, they would have dumped him after year 3.
Yes, but at the end of the day, when it comes to, hey, it's about winning, hey, longevity of career, Matt Stafford will never be talked about as one of the top 10 greatest quarterbacks. No, in terms of the quarterback position, you talk about top 10, top 15, every single one of those quarterbacks that gets into the top 10, top 15, top 20 conversation is a career-long winner, period. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls and had a vast career made off of winning games, both in big spots and always showing up and winning a bunch in the regular season. You had Steve Young, who ended up with 4. You had 3. Montana, 3. Montana ended up with 4. Elway ended up with 3. Marino didn't end up with any, but won a lot of football games and came close multiple times. Like this whole notion, Bradshaw won a lot of the football games that he played in. To some degree, you can even say, we can stretch back down and you can go, okay, to a guy like, I don't know, Jay Cutler with the Bears compared to Rex Grossman or any of the other back talent that's ever come through Chicago. Jay Cutler is the best of them. Jay Cutler has all the basic statistics. Is Jay Cutler a winning quarterback? Is Jay Cutler a good statistic quarterback? Which was he? Kind of neither. Little bit of both. Little bit of actually kind of middle of the road of both.
Jay Cutler had games and it was like 2 or 3 a year where he would perform really, really well, and the rest was just mediocre.
which is a lot of quarterbacks in this league who put up great stats. Dak Prescott is one of the best stat quarterbacks ever, but he doesn't win games because he's slightly above 50% average of a winner. The
Won
same
12
reason why I say Eli
12-5
is
the last 2 years. Got that huge contract.
well, but he didn't play in a lot of those games. He was injured. In the 12-5 that they went, he was injured in a decent portion of the season. He didn't play
was out
5
for
games. Cooper Rush played
4 games.
What, 4-1?
I thought it was 3-1.
I thought it was 4-1. Either way, Dak is basically just above. I want to say he's pretty close to 60% all time in his career. But do we talk about Dak being a fantastic quarterback?
Yes.
Do we talk about him in the realm of what Patrick Mahomes does?
But he's always been.
Hold on.
He's
do we
always
talk
hovered
about
around
him
that 10. He's always hovered around the top 10. Always.
Okay, top 10 now. Top 10 now in the league right now. No one's going to talk about Dak Prescott the minute he steps off a football field. No one's going to talk about Kirk Cousins the minute he steps off a football field. No one's going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa the minute he steps off a football field. Most of these guys are irrelevant to the stat book long term. Unless you are the greatest with stats and your name is etched in the record book, you do something that other people are not going to do.
Okay.
You're not going to be talked about.
I'm going to close this argument out because we're out of time here. I'm going to close this argument out with one player, someone that goes directly against your line of thinking. Tua Tagovailoa, perfect example. Winner. Won in high school. Won in college. Had one of the greatest college seasons of all time.
Correct.
Ended with a national championship. Has won in Miami. In fact, at one point this year, was leading all quarterbacks in total QBR and in win-loss percentage.
Correct.
Why is it that Miami every single year has quarterback controversy then? Why is there always a Deshaun Watson? Hold on, let me finish. Why is there always a Deshaun Watson rumor? Why is there a rumor about getting Lamar Jackson down to Miami? Why is there a rumor about getting Aaron Rodgers? That was peeked out today on The Herd by Colin Cowherd today. Why are there always different rumors about Tua getting replaced if he's the ultimate winner? It's because Tua doesn't do enough statistically. He's smaller than the average quarterback. His arm strength is terrible. He doesn't make great decisions when he's faced with a lot of pressure, and he's hurt all the time.
And you know the reason why? Tua puts up great statistics because Tua
doesn't.
Yes, he does. You just said he led in QBR. He had a bunch of yards. He had a bunch of touchdowns. You know why? Because Tua, for the same reason that he had great numbers in college and the reason that he got drafted, the same reason that Kyler Murray got himself drafted and had great numbers in college, the same reason Baker Mayfield had great numbers in college, is because they have great players around them who are better than them. They're not winners. They are at the talent of the others that are around them. So when you even out the playing field, the NFL is the ultimate even playing field. It has all of the best, which is the reason why Justin Fields isn't suddenly going to turn into some winner unless they put all the best guys in the league around him. Unless he's throwing to wide open windows the same way Tua had for his entire career, the same way Justin Fields did at Ohio State, and most good quarterbacks that come out of top tier programs end up being. You find the best quarterbacks long-term normally came from a smaller D1 program that wasn't a top elite national championship winning team because they played collectively with guys who weren't of their same caliber. They elevated them to a higher level because they are winners, period.
We can go back and forth about it all day, but we are out of time. We're right about at that 1 hour mark. It was great to talk to you again, Mighty Q, as always, on a Friday. We will be back on Tuesday, probably with a slightly different show. We're probably not going to get into nearly as much Super Bowl talk next Tuesday. It's probably going to be more free form of a show. Probably some lists going to be coming out. We're going to be talking about free agency destinations, to Sean Payton a little bit, which I kind of ran out of time to talk about. However, I will say this. We have got some great ideas coming at your way, all on Say It Like You See It. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages. That's TikTok. We can follow us on our Instagram at Say It Like You See It Pod. Wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook. You can basically find us anywhere. Quinn, if you want to give a little plug to your personal social accounts, I know you're doing pretty great things now on Insta.
Yes. So both Instagram and TikTok are both the exact same at mighty_Q21. And for those of you that are gym goers, if you are looking for a way to kind of boost and get some of I am now a brand ambassador for Bucked Up. So just follow me on any of the socials, whether it's Instagram or TikTok at mighty_Q21. Just click the link and get yourself some Bucked Up.
Love to hear that. And you can also follow me right now on TikTok as well. Moose Juice Videos. Juice is spelled Joose. I am literally only 2,000 followers away now. I just hit 98,000 followers. I will be at 100K here probably within the next month or two. It just depends on how much I post frequently. Mighty Q, is always great to talk to you. We will see you again on Tuesday, live from the AirTech Heating Studios and from Fargo, North Dakota. This has been Say It Like You See It, Week 3, Episode 2. We are out.